and welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Raine Musñgi. Join us as we explore the tools and insights you need to jumpstart your financial journey. The group of 7 wealthy democracies are set to step up pressure on China while offering Ukraine unwavering commitment amid accusations that Beijing is increasing support for Russia in its war against Kyiv. Meeting in Italy, Bloomberg reports that the G7 is preparing an early draft of conclusions indicating a stronger tone on China. Meanwhile, China will continue to take concrete actions to ensure stable and unimpeded global industrial and supply chains. Chinese Premier Li Qiang made the remarks at the upcoming Second China International Supply Chain Expo from Tuesday to Saturday in Beijing. The representatives all agree that China's economy retains a sound momentum of stable growth with continued vitality for innovation and a better business environment. Expressing full confidence in the Chinese economy, they said foreign enterprises stand ready to expand investment and seek greater development in China. Well, Apple CEO Tim Cook reaffirms the company's commitment to the Chinese market despite intense competition from Huawei. Cook made the remarks at Apple's Second China International Supply Chain Expo, marking his 3rd business trip to China this year.
I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm so proud that Apple has an exhibit here with our partners. Oh, I value them very highly. We could not do what we do without them. I think it's a great expo, a tour de force of innovation. This is my 3rd trip this year, and it was so wonderful to be there to see the intersection of technology and agriculture. And it feels wonderful to be a part of it. China, we're very committed to China. That's the reason I've been here 3 times.
Apple has invested over $20 billion in intelligent and green manufacturing in China over the past 5 years. Of its approximately 200 major global suppliers, more than 80% have manufacturing facilities located in China. For global investors, Apple's strong presence in China highlights the country's critical role in the tech supply chain. And this reaffirms China as a key investment destination for tech companies despite geopolitical and competitive pressures. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom's economy grew a meager 0.1% in the 3rd quarter of this year, lower than both the previous quarter and market expectations. The UK's economic performance in the 3rd quarter ranks far behind the US, Japan, France, and Canada among the G7. Economists generally believe that the UK economy continues to be suppressed by the dual pressures of high inflation and a high interest rate environment. Weak consumer spending and low business confidence have become the main reasons for the slowdown in economic growth. Now, how to boost the economy and public confidence will be a test of the Labour government's ability to govern.
There's £80 billion being taken from the local authorities' pension funds to invest in British infrastructure. I think there are great risks involved in a centralised pension fund being put into the hands of private equity funds. It's very high risk, very high reward. The debt involved could be significant.
Well, companies have pledged to invest more than $1 trillion in U.S. industries, such as semiconductors and clean energy, during the Biden administration, the White House said on Monday, citing the passage of 3 critical laws in recent years. U.S. President Joe Biden has cited the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, the CHIPS and Science Act, and the Inflation Reduction Act as helping to push his sweeping infrastructure agenda and create more jobs nationwide. The White House says subsidies provided under these laws have lured a number of chip makers and other companies to create or expand production facilities in the U.S. This comes as some Democrats blame the loss of control of the White House on economic concerns and a disconnect from voters, despite policies designed to boost the working and middle class, such as efforts to address price gouging and support for unions. Former President Donald Trump and President-elect Donald Trump is preparing a sweeping new energy plan aimed at dramatically increasing U.S. oil drilling and natural gas exports. In exclusive, sources close to the president-elect tell Reuters, package to roll out within days of his taking office that would approve export permits for new liquefied natural gas projects and increase oil drilling off the U.S. coast and on federal lands. In a symbolic gesture, Trump would seek to approve the Keystone Pipeline, an issue that was an environmental flashpoint and which was halted after Biden's canceled a key permit on his first day in office. Trump would also call on Congress to provide new funding so he can replenish the nation's strategic petroleum reserve, established as an emergency crude supply, and which was depleted under Biden to help manage price spikes caused by the Ukraine crisis and high inflation during the pandemic. Finally, Trump is also expected to put pressure on the International Energy Agency, the Paris-based energy watchdog that advises industrialized countries on energy policy. Republicans have criticized the IEA's focus on policies to reduce emissions. Trump's advisors have urged him to withhold funding unless the IEA takes a more pro-oil position. Intel Corporation is bracing for a reduction in a crucial U.S. government grant following its recent defense contract win. The CFO of the world's largest chip maker says they were expecting to receive up to $58.5 billion in subsidy from the federal government under the CHIPS Act, aimed at boosting semiconductor manufacturing in the U.S. However, the new defense contract, which Intel says will involve the production of critical chips for national security, may affect the total. Meanwhile, this just in, Bloomberg reports that Qualcomm's planned takeover of Intel has cooled, pending what would have been the largest technology deals of all time. Details of that story throughout the day. Moving on, Meta Platforms, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, is heading to trial next April as the Federal Trade Commission seeks to unwind its $1 billion acquisition of Instagram. The case marks a significant moment in the ongoing battle over the future of big tech and antitrust enforcement in the U.S. The FTC filed a lawsuit in 2021 arguing that Meta, then known as Facebook, overpaid for Instagram in 2012 and WhatsApp in 2014 to eliminate nascent threats instead of competing on its own in the mobile ecosystem. A U.S. judge had rejected Meta's argument that the case should be dismissed as it depends on an overly narrow view of social media markets. He set trial on the case for April 14th. Google, already facing a possible breakup of the company over its ubiquitous search engine, is fighting to beat back another attack by the U.S. Department of Justice alleging monopolistic conduct, this time over technology that puts online advertising in front of consumers. The Justice Department and Google made closing arguments Monday in a trial alleging Google's advertising technology constitutes an illegal monopoly. The Justice Department, along with a coalition of states, has already said it believes Google should be forced to sell off parts of its ad tech business, which generates tens of billions of dollars annually for the Mountain View, California-based company. Lawyers for the tech giant argued that the online advertising market was robust and that the government had cherry-picked a narrow slice of the online market and did not account for aggressive competition. A U.S. district judge in Virginia will decide the case and is expected to issue a written ruling by the end of the year. If the judge finds Google has engaged in illegal monopolistic conduct, she will then hold further hearings to explore what remedies should be imposed. Macy's reported stronger than expected sales for the third quarter and said it is delaying the release of its full quarterly results after it discovered an employee intentionally hid up to $154 million of expenses over several years. The department store chain, which also operates Bloomingdale's and Blue Mercury Cosmetics chain, says an independent investigation and forensic analysis found that a single employee with responsibility for small package delivery expense accounting intentionally made erroneous accounting accrual entries to hide roughly $132 to $154 million of expenses from the fourth quarter of 2021 through the fiscal quarter ended November 2. The company added the person behind the conduct is no longer an employee. Macy's said it is delaying reporting its third quarter earnings results to complete that independent investigation, but that net sales fell 2.4% to $4.7 billion, slightly above the average analyst estimate. Starbucks customers across the U.S. are facing disruptions this week after a major ransomware attack on one of its key software suppliers. The cyber attack, which targeted a supplier managing the company's point-of-sale software, the company says its own systems were not breached. The attack has led to widespread outages affecting order processing and payment systems in some locations, creating long lines and frustrated customers. The breach comes as Starbucks and other major retailers are facing increasing cybersecurity threats. Investors are increasingly turning to non-traditional data sources to predict the performance of major retailers as the holiday shopping season kicks off. This so-called alternative data is giving investors new insights into how major retailers are performing even before they report earnings. Now they can buy intel on everything from credit card swipe data to consumer sentiment reports from an ever-growing number of providers. One example is data firm 100X, which earlier this year began selling its shopper sentiment data to Goldman Sachs. Founded by former Goldman partner Robert Pace in 2012, 100X partners with nonprofits like Habitat for Humanity to measure thousands of individuals' future purchase intentions, claiming to get an early read on future financial trends. That's on top of companies like Salesforce and Second Measure, which provide investors with real-time consumer spending data, tracking everything from foot traffic to online orders. Analysts just warn that while the data may be valuable, they're not foolproof. Investors need to be cautious about using them to make investment decisions without proper context. Finally, is the world's largest cryptocurrency starting to lose its luster? Bitcoin dipped slightly to around $94,000 on Monday after coming close to the historic $100,000 mark late last week. Traders are now questioning whether the surge, driven by President-elect Donald Trump's pro-cryptocurrency stance, may have been overhyped. Since Trump's election victory on November 5th, the overall value of the digital asset market has skyrocketed by about $1 trillion. All eyes are on Bitcoin this week to see if it can regain its upward trajectory or if the market will take a breather amid concerns of overvaluation and speculation. Still to come, Formula One racing is about to launch the 11th team in its roster. That's next. Stay on BNC and follow the money. Welcome back to Follow the Money. News here at home now. Heightened political tensions are putting the country's economic stability and reputation as an investment destination at risk. This follows Vice President Sara Duterte's shocking revelation that she ordered the assassination of President Bongbong Marcos if she herself is killed. Sujin Kim has the details.
Following the political fiasco over the weekend, the local stock market still closed at 68.50 on Monday, up by 1.03% from Friday's trading. According to RCBC chief economist Michael Ricafort, political noise is nothing new. He says it is a natural part of democracy. Ricafort emphasizes what's important is to ensure that economic reforms remain on track and institutions in the country remain intact. But for credit rating and investor services chief economist Noel Leico, political instability has a direct impact on investments. He warns VP Sara's recent statements will not be well received by investors. Leico adds investment prospects for next year could also be affected if this issue is not resolved. John Paulo Rivera of the Philippine Institute for Development Studies also agrees political drama is hurting the country's image as an investment destination. As for economist and national scientist Raul Fabella, he says there is no question that investor perception of the country will change. He adds the fate of VP Sara now lies in the hands of the military. Sujin Kim, BNC.
Well, the Philippine Stock Exchange Index is still currently flat at 68.47, while the peso is currently at 58.95, slightly weaker from yesterday's close of 58.99. Former Central Bank Deputy Governor Diwa Ginigundo warns that intensified political tensions could lead to economic instability. Ginigundo cautions that financial markets could face further disruptions, the peso could weaken even more, and inflationary pressures could escalate. He notes that the country's fiscal space is already constrained and that debt concerns remain a genuine issue. Ginigundo also says the political unrest could reinforce the outside world's perception in the Philippines as weak. He warns that such instability risks the country being viewed as a banana state, which does not inspire confidence or attract investments. Philanthropist and investor Warren Buffett continues his Thanksgiving tradition of giving by announcing plans to donate over $1.1 billion in Berkshire Hathaway stock to 4 of his family foundations. Buffett also revealed new details about his plans for distributing the rest of his fortune after his death. The 94-year-old billionaire previously stated that his 3 children will oversee the distribution of his remaining $147.4 billion within 10 years of his passing. Now, he has designated successors for each of his children, Howard, Peter, and Susie, who are 71, 69, and 66 years old, to ensure his charitable mission continues, even if they are unable to complete it themselves. Buffett's latest announcements reaffirm his long-standing commitment to philanthropy and leave a well-planned legacy for the future generations to carry forward. And finally, here's something to tempt your sweet tooth. A chocolate craze is taking Germany by storm, with residents and tourists alike queuing outside shops to grab a viral pistachio-filled chocolate bar. Nicknamed the Dubai Chocolate, this luxurious treat was created in 2021 by a British-Egyptian entrepreneur based in Dubai. It shot to global fame after a food influencer posted a TikTok video of herself enjoying the chunky delicacy. That video has since racked up over 100 million views and inspired copycat versions worldwide. At up to 20 euros per bar, it's far more expensive than your average chocolate, but that hasn't stopped fans from indulging. Now, is it a sweet tooth worth the hype or just a fleeting fad? One thing's for sure, it's leaving a lasting impression. And for a final story, Formula One has reached an agreement in principle with General Motors to support GM Cadillac becoming the sport's 11th team in 2026. GM officials reportedly attended the Las Vegas Grand Prix at the weekend to discuss a potential deal with F1 and Liberty Media after months of speculation. Liberty Media-owned F1 said it had maintained a dialogue with General Motors and its partners at TWG Global regarding the viability of an entry following a commercial assessment and decision made by Formula One in January. Mario Andretti, the last American F1 champion in 1978, will serve as director on the team's board. Liberty Media had ruled out an Andretti bid in January, doubting it would be competitive or add value, but kept a door open for 2028, when GM would be able to provide an engine. The U.S. House of Representatives Judiciary Committee launched an investigation into possible anti-competitive conduct. And that is it for today's edition of Follow the Money. I'm Raine Musñgi. Thank you so much for watching. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel, always on top.